Good morning, live. We're live.
Go live?
Yes.
Okay. All right, welcome back, everybody. At this time, I would like to recall to order the meeting of the Suffern Central Board of Education for January 19th, 2021. The time is 7:38. Let the record reflect all board members are currently present, either in person or virtually. Please rise for the pledge. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I would also ask that everybody please remain standing for a moment of silence for Patty Litt. Thank you.
I just wanted to take a moment and share with the Suffern Central community. Patty was a beloved member, colleague. She worked here at Hilburn in the Office of Instruction for the last 10 years. A beloved colleague and friend who will be missed dearly. She leaves behind her husband and her daughter and other family members. And it's with great sadness that we remember her. So many people today, everyone's comments included the way she would always smile when she greeted them, the way she would laugh, how much people are going to miss her laugh and laughing with her. I can say my last conversation with her over break, she had me laughing. And I was struck when I got off the phone with her, how much she made me laugh. And such a wonderful person, terrific colleague and a great friend, and we're going to miss her dearly.
Thank you for the kind words. 1.09 student report.
So hi everyone. For today, the first thing we have is that winter sports have started, which include bowling, track, gymnastics, skiing, and boys swimming. And then on January 15, 2021, we had our World Language Honor Society induction. There were 67 total inductees in the 5 honor societies that we have. So that's American Sign Language, Chinese, French, Italian, and Spanish. So the video is on the Suffern High School homepage at this moment. Also on January 6th, that week, Andrew Ludwikowski, a senior, received the Rockland Scholar Athlete of the Week for soccer. And then currently we have the Youth Against Cancer at Suffern High School and Suffern Middle School, fundraising for a previous student, Danny Van Schaik, who passed away, unfortunately, due to leukemia. And this fundraiser is basically a purchase your own pizza kit for $15 from Nikki's Pizza, and half of all the proceeds go to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And this link is present in the Facebook News website for Suffern Central. And lastly, our Suffern High School quarter ends January 29th, 2020, which is in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. So just to start, I'm going to give a little update on a few of the clubs at Suffern High School. So this week, USO met with members of different clubs at Suffern High School and decided to partner up with the National Art Honor Society and History Honor Society to plan future events throughout the second semester. History Honor Society is working on planning events for our school that could involve fun debates about historical figures, and the new applicants for History Honor Society are in the process of applying. Also, our school's fall play can be found on the fall play website. So this year it was The Night of Poe, which consisted of Edgar Allan Poe's most famous work. So yeah, that's all we have. Thank you.
Great.
Great
Thank
job.
you very much.
Thanks, girls. Great job.
Okay. Are we muted? Am I muted?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, you're good.
Oh, we're okay?
Yes.
Okay, all right. A little confusing. Okay. 1.10, this is going to be an update and a presentation given by a school leadership, which is a firm that that the board has contracted with to help conduct our superintendent search. So I will turn it over to Ken or Susan. I'm not sure who's taking the charge on the presentation, but at this time I'll turn it over and let them sort of give everybody here, both in this boardroom and to the community that's watching, sort of an idea on where we are and how we, how we got to the point we're at with the superintendent search.
Great. Thank you so much for that nice welcome, Matt, and I hope you and your board and colleagues and family enjoyed a safe and healthy holiday, and 2021 is off to a good start, and our sympathies to the family of your colleague. We are appreciative that we have the time this evening to present what we learned from spending 3 days in your district conducting focus groups. You all have your spec report, which was part of your search binder, and I suspect you all had a chance to go through that. Before we turn it over to Ken, who's going to lead us through the slides that will really sort of give the community an overview of what we learned, we did want to give a particular shout out to Heather Campbell, because she really provided invaluable assistance and was readily available and very accessible and really represented the district well. So I thank her for her great help, and Eric too, for helping to guide the technology necessary for the virtual meetings. And my colleague Ken Mitchell will now lead us through the slides, which you will see in front of you. And Ken, I'll turn it over to you. And before I forget, because this is the key thing, at the end of our presentation, we're going to talk about the specification, position specification and the language in that. And we need to have a decision on what the exact language will be, and you'll adopt that resolution before we can leave this evening. So that will then enable us to go forward to start the actual recruitment. But thank you again for having us, and Ken.
Thanks, Susan. And hi, folks. Once again, thanks again for having us. And what Susan's point, my presentation is going to summarize some of the documents that we provided that reflect the data that were collected from the district through the survey and through the focus groups that we held. So I'll summarize that process, and this will lead us to the specs that we hope that we'll adopt at the end of the session. So Eric, if you could move to the next slide, please. All right, so these were obviously invitational virtual meetings, and we had open virtual meetings as well. So folks could sign up and attend, and we had an online survey. Those numbers have been adjusted a little bit since we sent you the slides, but proportionately they're about the same. So you had good participation with your online survey. Next slide, please. So these were the participants. We had 56 folks attend the focus group meetings. And these were some of the positions. You can read, I won't read all of them to you. And we had the community forums held during the day and also in the evening. And we had members of the faculty, as well as the leadership, the unions, clerical staff. They all participated. So overall, we had, with the survey, 238 respondents. As I said, that was a pretty good response rate. And this is how the numbers broke out. Most of the participants were parents, residents with students, and the rest were employees. And we had some residents who do not have children currently attending the schools. So here you have the 6 highest ranked skill sets or experiences. So if you look at the top here, if you go to the next slide, please, Eric. Keep going. All right, so we have the top 6. So number 1, they want someone who's skillful in working with a Board of Education. Then right after that, they want someone who's experienced in a high expectation school district such as Suffern. They want someone who has a background in strategic planning. They want someone who has an instructional leadership background. And again, this comes from the survey. They want someone who communicates well, who speaks well, who writes well. And they also identified in their top 6 experience as a classroom teacher. Next slide, please. So if you recall, there were 3 questions that we presented to the focus groups. The first question is, why Suffern? What is it about the school district or the community that would be attractive to a top flight candidate? The second question was, so what are the current challenges that the Suffern School District and community face that a superintendent would be responsible for leading? And the third is, what are the skill sets and experiences that one should bring to address those challenges? So you see, for the first question, the community, all of those groups, this is a summary, it showed a lot of pride in the district, in its academic success, its reputation, its comprehensive offering, and we heard a little bit about that from our student board members this evening, and pride in the faculty and the staff. Next slide. We heard the term community in so many different contexts throughout the focus groups. There's tremendous pride in the community, its traditions, the fact that there are generations of families, that there's a tremendous desire to maintain the bond that this community has. So that was a theme that emerged as a strength. Next slide, please. So this is our second question. So what are the challenges? So the matter of declining enrollment emerged, again, from most of the groups. And the relationship of that declining enrollment to the expansion of private religious schools throughout the community, and how the district is going to have to address the changing demographics and growing diversity, and also deal with unbalanced and what many identified as possibly inefficient elementary school enrollments. So this was the theme here was related to changes in enrollment. Next slide, please. This set of challenges had to do with how the district, it's related to the changes in demographics, but ways in which the district is going to have to respond, such as being more responsive to changes in culture within the community, or providing programs for English language learner students, or enhancing efficiency, which emerged again and again. And then last, a challenge for a new superintendent, demographic changes or not, is responding to academic and economic effects of COVID-19, which is the conversations happening across the country.
And Ken, can I just jump in here just to remind everybody, when we met with the different focus groups, we used these 3 prompt questions that Ken outlined. And we assured the folks who participated that we don't attribute comments or feedback to a specific person or a cohort. So thereby we feel that the information we gathered was really very honest, because people weren't concerned that they couldn't be, straightforward with us. And then we went and we looked for repeating themes, and these are those repeating themes that were consistent, as Ken had said.
Thanks, Susan. Next slide, please, Eric. So now we're into our third question. So what are the attributes, the characteristics, skill sets, backgrounds that a new superintendent should bring? And there are multiple themes. So the first theme had to do with innovation. Someone who would come in with new ideas, someone who would be an innovator but a motivator, someone who would help the district develop initiatives that would attract families and keep families in the district. And that has to do with the bonding of the community and the desire to maintain that. Someone who is knowledgeable about programs. The fifth bullet item was emphasized by many, and that is someone who's a visionary but also involves others in that vision. And then the last under this category is someone who can help to reimagine the school and turn those challenges that we identified into successes. Next slide, please. This is a big theme too, trust building. They want, and I think this is probably universal when we're dealing with superintendent searches. People want someone who's accessible and approachable. They want someone who can build relationships and connects to kids and can build trust. So, but this was emphasized throughout. It was consistent, and it's healthy to hear this from the different groups. Next slide, please. Communication, so important. You know, Susan and I shared with you when we met how we worked with many school boards, and this always emerges as a desirable attribute for the collective team. So, but the first bulleted item is kind of significant because it talks about demonstrated success in communicating effectively. People can talk the talk, but how many people can actually provide examples of how they've been successful communicating? And that was emphasized by most of the groups. Next slide, please. Experienced. And you saw this in the survey. This was identified. They want experience as an educator, ideally someone who has central office experience in a variety of leadership positions. And again, that trust factor. They want someone who can demonstrate that they've built trust in a previous place. And again, strategic planning appeared in the focus groups, and it also appeared in the survey responses. Next slide, please. Confidence. Now, this was interesting. This emerged. They want someone who's brave, who's courageous, who's bold, yet is willing to make decisions, yet is collaborative and communicate. And next slide, please. All right, so we drew from all of that data to develop a summary set. And we have 5 of those. So if you take a look at this, and you'll see some of the terms that you just heard me present from those focus groups.
And Ken, these would be the position specs that we would use in our advertisement, in our recruitment letter, and on online postings, and in our own individual outreach to different prospective candidates. And right. These are the 5 that are reflected in the resolution.
And when candidates contact us, which they do, about the positions, we'll ask them to look at the specs. And we'll talk to them about how the specs align with their experiences. So you take a look at this one, you see courage, decisiveness. Again, someone who has the skills to lead a high-achieving and diverse public district. And then you see community emerge again. So that's the first one.
And students, because that was the through thread throughout all of our conversations.
Student is the center of this one. Next one, please, Eric. Again, innovative. Innovation comes up again and again. And, you know, I think your district is known for being innovative, and people want to maintain that. Politically savvy. You know, they want someone who's able to work with you folks because you represent different constituents, different perspectives from the community. They also want someone who has a skill set in dealing with some very complex financial and demographic challenges. And so someone who has that background or someone who has the potential to deal with those challenges. Yet they want a team player. Next slide, please. Again, student focus comes up. Someone who understands curriculum, instruction, and you see innovation again, and someone who will work with the faculty and staff. All right, next slide, please. Again, communication. You see honesty. There's that trust building.
And that's something that came up is the communicator who doesn't just value it, but practices it, who walks the walk, talks the talk. That was definitely another theme that emerged throughout our time there.
And that data-informed decision-making, that relates to the kind of strategic planning that, again, was a theme that cut through this.
Yep.
Next slide, please. So this is interesting. There are folks who wanted someone who's charismatic, but they want someone who's humble, and they want someone who's passionate. And this is our amalgamation of the concepts that we heard, trying to capture everyone's perspective. But they want a unique individual to lead an outstanding school district during a very challenging time.
Right, and this also addresses the common thread of declining enrollment and expanding the appeal to prospective new families to move into the district. That was, again, something that we heard throughout our time in the focus groups.
Yep. I believe that's the last one of those. Eric, next slide, please. Yeah. So, Susan, are you going to take this part, or?
I mean, only if there are any specific questions. I mean, hopefully we're going to walk out tonight with approval on whatever the final language for the position specifications. And we know we're going to be working towards the Education Week, if we can get it out tonight, for publication on the 3rd and the 10th. And then the posting, the website posting of the position specs would go on Wednesday for all of the ones that are identified, but likely the following day for the Association of Latin School Administrators and the Urban League National Bank. And then we're also going to expand our outreach and do email enhancements to the entire American Association of School Administrators who might be interested in looking or hearing about new opportunities. We're going to be sending out our recruitment letters, which is that curated list of approximately 1,400, and we hope to get that on folks' desks between the 27th and the 30th. And then applications would be open tomorrow on our website, and we can give you that link for that for your board page, for your search page for your website, once we have the final language for the job specification. So we're ready to start going. As you may recall, the application deadline for this is February 21st. So we're compressing a lot in a short period of time in order to get robust results for you.
And word's already out.
Yes.
And I've received 3 phone calls in 2 weeks just about the Suffern position. So just know that. But we would like to move this.
We need to, right. So that's our presentation. So the question would be, do we have any answers to any questions, or how do folks feel about the 5 proposed position specifications?
So I'll open it up. If there's any board members that have specific questions, now's the time.
Yeah.
Paul, you look like you might have something to say.
Quick question. How many applications do you usually receive for a position of superintendent?
Don, that's a really good question, and it depends. This will be the first time that a search is starting. This is the first COVID full search. So it'll be interesting to see the results. And it could range anywhere from 40 to 60 to 30 to 70. It really depends. But also volume is not predictive of quality. We'd rather get 10 fantastic people than 60 not so great people. But we will, when we're done and we meet with you in executive session, because it's a personnel matter, to present who we think would be the semifinalists for this position. We will give you documentation of everybody who applied and our reasoning why we didn't move forward with folks. And you'll get all that data complete for you, Don.
Very good. Thank you.
Yep.
We track as applicants come in, all of us on the team.
Yeah.
Get information from people who uploaded their paper. We review it as it comes in. We make notes, and we even start to do our own research too.
Our deep throat research.
Yeah, right.
Our confidential. And again, I mean, as you can see, this is a pretty robust outreach. The point of this is to make this outstanding opportunity at Suffern as known as possible throughout, the superintendent pool nationally. It's already out in the marketplace, as Ken alluded, and this was even before we started our focus groups. So that was at the end of December. There are, as you may be aware, a number of superintendent searches in Suffern County and in Westchester as well. And as we know from data supplied by the New York State Council of School Superintendents, what is it, Ken? Something like 45% of superintendents are going to retire in the next 5 years.
I think we shared that with you the first time.
Yeah.
We met.
So this is becoming a trend, but that's why we want to be very aggressive in our outreach.
Yeah, well, there are also people who are going into it. I was on a panel at the New York State Council of School Superintendents last Friday, and that was work with aspiring superintendents. So you have folks who are assistant superintendents who are thinking about becoming superintendent. So there is a pipeline.
Yes. And I will say that reminds me, Ken, when we were in focus groups, what did emerge too from some folks is that, or many folks, not most, but many, is that skill set is important, but also the character and personality of the individual was very important too. Because without that dynamic, our takeaway, didn't matter how experienced you were, you weren't going to be successful. So there's that fine balance there.
Now, Paul, you had unmuted. So did you have a question?
Well, it's a question. So those last 5 slides, I'm assuming that those would be highlighted pieces that would show up in the ad.
Absolutely. We've already taken, we're literally ready to send it.
Right. So
whatever the final language is, so that's the an advertisement will have a little description about the school district, something that makes it sound, very compelling. And, the board invited community feedback, and this is what we learned. Here's the position specification, and then here's how you can apply. And that will be in the ad, both online for these different associations, as well as in the print copy of Education Week, which we feel reaches the most people for the least amount of money.
Yeah.
Okay. And really what you're asking from us tonight is anything that we want to put in for the specific pieces.
Yes.
Yes.
It must be
if there are
12 or 8 or 5'2" or whatever, and you must whatever. Okay.
We're hoping that when you read those 5 position specifications, it resonated with you, and that there will be unanimity that yes, this is good, and then you would adopt that and give us approval to use that, and then go forward with the advertising.
Okay, Susan, I am going to correct you. I didn't think it was good. I think it was better than good. A lot better than good.
Thank you.
All right. Yeah, really, this is exciting. And I'm sure I'm not the only one of the 7 of us who's excited about it, but this is very exciting. So.
Thank you for that. We appreciate that. And it's really interesting. We talked about this. I mean, I've been doing search for 4 decades now. And Ken certainly at his position as superintendent has hired a lot of people. But when we come into a district, we don't come with a preconceived idea. The language is not in our mind. And the language that populates these position specifications are specific to Suffern.
It reflects the community.
Absolutely. Hand on my Bible. It's not generic. Some of the, it's generic to Suffern, meaning the language is very specific because it's what we heard and we learned, but we needed to include what was the most often we heard, but in a way that was inviting and compelling to encourage people to apply. And so it really is completely a result of what we learned through our focus groups and gathered from the survey information.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments about the specs?
Any other questions, comments? No? Okay. But it doesn't seem like there's any other questions. I just want to say, number one, thank you to the firm, to both of you, Ken and Susan, for, putting this presentation together and for, taking all the time to spend with us as a board and with the community and with the faculty and the staff and everybody else to get the input. And I'm also going to call out Heather, because Heather has been a rock star through this entire process. And I just want to say thank you to Heather for all the work that you've done to really just prepare this and help put it together.
And Matt, if I might interject, I reinforce that because Heather and I work closely together, as you know, on this. And Heather may have my picture on a dartboard in her office. I don't know about that. As I said,
you get my picture on the dartboard.
As I said when we started the meeting, her assistance was invaluable, and she was nonplussed. Never got worried it was going to get done, and it did, and it all came together. And again, we're grateful for that support. So thank you, Heather.
Thank you. Okay, so the way that it stands now then is we do have a resolution on our action items a bit later in the meeting. So what we will do is we'll finish conducting our meeting, and once we get to that action item, and assuming it's approved, we will myself or somebody will reach out to you tonight to let you know that you've got the green light.
Yeah, if you could let us know, or can you move your agenda and do the resolution right now?
Well, I'll tell you what, given the amount of items that are remaining before the action items, it's probably only 5 or 10 minutes from now. So, I prefer just to leave the agenda as is, and I'll send you an email in 10 minutes directly from here after we approve it.
I was just pushing you around that. But we appreciate that. Or you can send me an email or text me, or just as long as we know, because we want to hit the send button. And I know you will get back to me. But also, before we leave, I know you were going to appoint a new board member, and we don't yet haven't met that person or know that person.
So I don't know if he's on screen. But
we're moving the camera.
We have our new board member, Darryl Frazier, was just sworn in about 3 hours ago, 2 hours ago.
Well, I welcome, and I hope, Donald, that they told you that you need to be available the weekend of March 26, 27, 28, and 29 for virtual interviews.
I hadn't told him that, and we were going to hold off on that, but now he might step on.
He will be available. Don't worry.
Yes. Yeah, don't worry. You can have my picture for your dartboard too.
He's already roped in. He's stuck with us now.
I'm here. Thank you.
Anyway, well, Ken and I are grateful for your support, and again, for the community to know the board was entirely supportive of including as many folks in the community as possible at what you know was a really tricky time, right when holiday was starting. There were a lot of other surveys going on in the district. You pushed out the information. You had a nice attendance, and we appreciate you letting us speak this evening and having this meeting this evening for us, and look forward to hearing confirmation of the resolution, and then we're good to go. So thank you. Ken, anything you'd like to add?
Thanks a lot. You said it all, Susan.
So thank you, folks. Let's everybody stay safe and healthy. And I'm sure Heather and I will continue talking.
Thank you.
Very well. Okay, thank you both.
All right, thank you now. Bye-bye.
Thank you. All right. All right, everybody's good, right? All right. Okay, 1.11, these are minutes of the regular meeting of December 15th, 2020. Okay. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Mr. McKenzie, is there a second?
Second.
Dr. Nickpon. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against? Any abstentions?
I think I have.
Okay, so Mr. Fraser abstains. Uh, 1.12, acting superintendent comments.
Good evening. I have two short comments tonight. One is be sure to check out our social media. We've had a number today and from last Friday of activities highlighting students around Martin Luther King Day. So please take a moment to look at those. Also, I'd like to congratulate Linda Brennan, who is our elementary math specialist at RP Connor. And Linda was recognized today from the New York State Education Department. She is one of the 2 state finalists from New York State for the 2020 Presidential Awards for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teaching. So congratulations, Linda.
Great job, Linda. Thank you.
And we, are so grateful for your innovative teaching and your leadership as a math specialist in the district. We're so happy that New York recognizes your success and innovation, and we look forward to you moving forward at the national level. Congratulations.
That's it? All right, thank you. 1.13, public participation. This is public participation on action items only. Heather, I don't know if you have anything for this portion. Nope. Okay. We will close that portion of the meeting. We'll go to action items. I would, let's see. Does anybody have any action items they wish to pull from a consent agenda?
Matt, I'd like to pull 2.09.
2.09. Okay. Was there another one?
Yes, 2.14.
Okay. Okay. Anything else? Anyone else wishes to pull?
I'd like to pull 2.06.
2.06. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Any others? No? Okay. Then I would call for a consent agenda for action items 2.01 through 2.05, 2.07, 2.08, and 2.10 through 2.13. Do I have a motion on this consent agenda?
Motion.
That was too many. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Mr. McKenzie? Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Cairns? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, 2.06. This is the resolution for school leadership for the superintendent search. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Is that Mr. Shapiro?
Yes.
Is there a second? Mr. Frazier? Discussion.
Yeah. At this time, again, I'd just like to say that I don't feel the district this is the right time for this district to be seeking a superintendent. I just wanted to let that be known, my own personal opinion. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, I want to call that again. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those against?
Matt,
Nay.
I think you got to make a motion again if you're going to poll it again.
I was only asking because I couldn't hear. I just couldn't hear everybody.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so I just want to make sure it was.
Just asking for a recount of the vote then, right?
Everybody's a yay, Tommy was nay.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Okay. 2.08, I'm sorry, 2.09. This is the resolution for Grant Rockland 21C.
21st century.
Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Mr. McKenzie, second?
Second.
Mr. Shapiro, discussion.
Yeah, I pulled this one, Matt. I just would like Mr. Schleicher to give us a little more background on this about where these funds go into the resource centers and how they're used.
I can address that for you, Mr. McKenzie. So Rockland 21C is the organization that provides all the professional development for our Family Resource Center. They provide the staffing, the hiring. We actually run most of the cost of the FRC runs through BOCES, but in addition, 21C provides us some direct grant money that can be used when we have the in-person play groups. It can be used for some of the toys that are used that are run out of the FRC.
Okay. Now, you're talking about the in-person pre-K or whatever?
This is actually the play groups. Currently, we have an FRC at Connor that we've had for a number of years, run by Denise Kane. And so the total cost of the FRC exceeds what we pay BOCES. So this grant helps to fund her salary, the play group she runs, and materials she needs. If she brings in a non-COVID world, sometimes she might bring in a outside provider of some sort, but it all goes to the kids that are the 2s and 3s.
I'm sorry. I was going to say that I think it's wonderful that these folks are donating to enhance these centers, and I think that we should probably send them some sort of thank you letter or something. If we can do that from the board, that'd be great. Just a recommendation, Matt.
Okay, we can look into that. Are there any other questions or anything else on this?
Not for me, thank you.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, so 2.09, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, 2.14, this is a policy manual update for policy 8334. I guess just for just a little context, this is a policy that is going to first reading tonight without going through policy committee because it has some rather urgent COVID updates that need to be addressed as quickly as possible. So this is, again, for the first reading for policy 8334. Do I have a motion?
Moved.
Mr. McKenzie, second?
Excuse me, question. Could you tell the public what the policy is about?
Yes, can I get a second on the motion first?
Second.
Mrs. Shapiro? Okay, discussion. Okay, so this policy is related to credit card payments and authorizations from the business office. And, you know, due to COVID, I guess our ability to need to pay for things via credit card has increased drastically because so many organizations and so many people and vendors, you know, may not have people in their offices to accept purchase orders, or process checks. So the policy is looking to increase credit card limits and I guess make it easier to process credit cards.
It actually decreases the limit on an individual credit card, but allows very much simplifies the use for a credit card. In particular, some of the guidelines under the previous policy were very restrictive and really prevented us from having a district credit card. So many times we put things on our own credit card and we're reimbursed. That's becoming more common with COVID because there are companies who just want their money. They don't want a purchase order, they don't want a process, they just want to be paid. And there are times when we need materials and we need them right now, and they go to the person who's going to give them money quickest. So if you're, caught up in a 3-week purchase order process, they've already sold it to someone else.
I'm sorry, but I believe that, having board members have a school credit card is definitely the wrong idea, okay? I've worked with 2 different foundations in my past, and one of the problems there is that sometimes the credit card, although they, want to make sure that they use it properly, sometimes it doesn't work out that way. And I think there's no reason whatsoever that a board member should have a credit card, okay, for the Suffern Central School District. I believe that the administration, finance people should have those credit cards, but why would you want to go down that very, very slippery slope that has caused, if you read the papers and if you know from personal experience, where credit cards have for certain people who don't want to, who really don't want to mismanage them. However, unfortunately, sometimes it happens. So why not preclude that? I don't believe that a board member or a board president, anybody on a school board should have a credit card based on the school district. If it takes a little bit longer to get a product, that's the way it should be. But have the school board stay out of finances for the school district. It's not a good idea.
I have to say that it is sort of strange to have a board member have a credit card.
So if I could just give an example of when it would be used, and really possibly the only time it would be used. For example, when a board member is attending a board conference and needs to book a plane ticket, needs to book a hotel. In the past, we've always done that, and you've used your own personal credit cards and been reimbursed. And that is a process we can continue. It's really up to the board. but that's really the only time a board member would use it.
I mean,
For very specific board business where a credit card is required, a plane ticket, a hotel reservation.
My personal feeling would be, if that's really the only reason why a board member would be issued a credit card, then I don't think we need the credit card. I mean, I think everybody who has been a board member from, now, for the last 20, 30, 40 years, if you're going to attend a NISBA conference or something of that nature, you purchase it and you get reimbursed by the district. I think, right now we're not attending anything anyway. And once we do start attending conferences again and NISBA starts hosting in-person events again, this process should be a lot easier because COVID hopefully shouldn't be an issue. So I mean, I've got to say I agree. I don't think that it's necessary for board members to have credit cards.
Mr. Schleicher, did you want to add anything?
Can I being I'm the one that pulled it off.
Hold on, one at a time.
I do attend.
I was saying being I'm the one that pulled
your
it.
comment, but
Wait, Steve, 1 second.
I said, being I'm the one that pulled the item, can I just speak to what I wanted to say to it before we move on and start explaining why we're getting it or whatever? I just wanted to say that I agree with Don that board members shouldn't have it. But first, I wanted to thank Paul for putting this in a red line fashion, like I requested the last time that a policy change was made. I appreciate that, Paul.
I didn't do it.
Well, whomever did it, I appreciate it. I requested it and I appreciate it. But thank you, Paul. Anyway, you must have told somebody something. You must have told somebody something. But
policy committee. Paul and I are on the policy committee.
Yes, no, I understand that. Whomever did it, I requested them to please do this in the future, and they did it. And I wanted to thank them for it, whomever did it. But the more importantly, I agree with Don and Matt what they just said about. I don't think that I think we shouldn't open Pandora's box there, just because there have been problems in other districts with credit cards, and if that's the only need, like Matt said, fine. I don't think I would have no problem putting that on my own credit card and handling that through the business office afterwards and requesting the funds back. And it's no slight, and it's not that I think that anybody on this board would do something like that, but you never know who is going to end up on a board and what their intentions are when they get here. So it's better to just not even have that as an available resource, in my own opinion. The other thing that I wanted to say, I think that rather than holding these a list of people who have a credit card in there, it should be defined in the actual policy who, if anybody, is to be issued a credit card, and the limit should be, just within these same guidelines, but the limit on each card and who is getting it should be in the policy. If somebody in the business office needs a card that is between $2,500 and $5,000 or whatever is the number, write that right into the policy. I just think that it should be a little bit more defined as to who gets it, rather than a list being held in the business office. We should know exactly who's allowed to have it as per the policy and what the limit is before we go approving anything. So it's a good start, with the exception of having a board member have it. But I think we need to be a little bit more restrictive and let people know exactly who is allowed to have a card and what the limit of that card should be. That's all I wanted to say.
Also, one of the problems here is that this was an action item that the policy committee was not aware of that was going to be an action item. We have not discussed it. We have had no input in it. And if we had, I think you would have heard some of the comments that, I'm making at this point, along with Matt.
Well, okay. I mean, and that's why it's a first read, is so that we have the opportunity to make those comments. But I think
policy committee first.
Well, we've already kind of address why it was put on the agenda right away, because it is time sensitive. But I think Steve had some comments to make about the policy in general.
Yeah, to address your concerns, Matt, it wasn't proposed that each board member have a specific credit card in your name that you would have on your person. What we'd envisioned here was one credit card, for example, for possibly you, Matt, as the board president. You now travel, for example, to say New York City, Buffalo, or Rochester to a board conference. To be able, for example, I'll give a great example of hotel rooms. Sometimes they'll let you use your personal credit card, but sometimes they won't. And also, as a person, you then don't qualify for the exemptions. So you're not tax exempt, the school district is. So the problem is then being able to hold rooms, pay for those rooms, and anything else that applies to that. These credit cards will also be in our safe, and they will only be given out when asked for. And that's why the list is here. That we want for the business office, obviously the treasurers need to be able to do things. For example, all the purchasing that we now need to be able to do online. Because it is time sensitive and because of the pure nature of how long it takes to do things via mail now versus online. So no, it was never envisioned that every board member would have a credit card with the school district's name on them, just that they could go spend anytime they wanted. These expenditures would be specifically approved ahead of time for conferences and things like that, be approved, and then you take the credit card with you. We give it, you sign it. Yeah, there would be a sign-out sheet with our treasurer that, okay, you've been given the card, you have authorization then to spend X amount of dollars, and we follow it up with the purchase order with that vendor, whoever it is, if it's a conference, hotel, whatever it may be, for meals, that kind of thing, for incidentals. That's what it's all about. And because I fully agree with Mr. Carnes with what has happened, and I'm very, very aware of that. And the internal controls on the cards obviously want to be very tight. And like I said, it was never envisioned that every board member would have a card in his or her name. No, that was not the premise behind this law. Okay. Or any principal or any, again, the superintendent of schools, possibly you yourself as the president of the board. Obviously, possibly the treasurer, or myself in the business office to be able to make out the all purchases that we do every day. For example, for facilities. That's what we envision. Not everybody in the district all of a sudden is going to have a credit card. No. And I agree that list obviously would be approved by the Board of Education as well. Okay.
I was saying though, Steve. I wasn't saying, first of all, that every board member was getting a credit card. I understood what the policy said. I just don't think that any board member should have it, for that matter. I think that, if you're going first, I'm pretty much the only one I think that's gone to one of these, conferences or whatever that's on this board anyway. And it's not that you're not talking about, thousands of dollars or anything like that. It's hundreds, and you're putting it on a credit card that's due a month later if you have to use a credit card. So it's not that big of a deal if you just go through the process the way it is. And, at the end of the day, all I'm asking for with the list is that we define it in the policy. Who is allowed to have a credit card and what that limit is on the credit card in the policy, not a list that's kept in a safe or whatever. Just what positions are allowed to have it, who's authorized to use it, and that's it.
Okay. Given that this is a first reading, our next board meeting is February 2nd. So is there any thought of having a policy committee meeting prior to February 2nd? And perhaps...
Yeah, we're going to have to. We obviously, because of this, we need to have one before February 2nd. That's number one. And Steve, just let me ask you a question, and then I'll get back to number one or number two. If there was a car that was designated for board use, a single card, then let's say if a board member needed to make a reservation, someone in the business office could use that board card, if you would. And then if for some reason they needed to take it with him or her, they would sign it out, use it at whatever destination, and then bring it back. And that would be the end of it. That would be the end of the use for that particular event. I mean, that's the way I'm trying to picture it in my head.
But what would stop them from using the credit card that they have to do that?
Hey, listen,
I'm just asking.
I think Steve, what Steve had said is that a couple of the considerations of using the district card versus a personal card is one, sales tax, and the fact that district is tax exempt. And two, possibly having certain certain benefits or
you get the government rate.
I had it happen to me in Buffalo. I had it happen to me in Buffalo where I had to use my personal card, and the room went to somebody else because, believe it or not, I didn't have a district card. The room was reserved with a district card, and I didn't have the district card with me. And very fortunately, another room showed up, and my superintendent showed up a few hours behind me with the district card, and I was able to get my room back, or a room back, let's put it that way. And again, that tax exemption does not follow you or I as individuals. It follows the district.
Right. Okay. So if there is a card. All right. So if there is a Board of Education card which is kept under lock and key and only brought out to make the reservation from the district to wherever, and then if for some reason the person needs to take it with them,
and they do.
Well, yeah.
Right, and then they sign it out, and then they bring it back, and nothing, and there's no other charges on it. Fine, but Angus, I don't have a problem putting stuff on my card. My wife might, but that's a whole other issue. What I would, okay, so that's one thing. I'm just trying to put things in my head to trying to figure this out. In terms of a policy committee meeting, well, we really have to have one, and not that we're against it, but Chris and Don and I will pick a date, and it'll have to be within the next two weeks, and then we'll kind of hash out, and then we'll bring it. And this is the first reading on this, but
we've never had any input into this first reading.
So
yeah, we shouldn't be acting on this tonight.
So I really feel
this is not a first reading because it hasn't gone before the policy committee. And if you take that card out, what happens when the board member takes it and unfortunately they get robbed or they lose it or whatever, okay, or it's stolen? I mean, come on, it's one card too many. Okay, we've been doing this old system which seems to have worked. If it ain't broken, okay, why are we trying to add another credit card? What the auditors hate ideas like this because you're expanding the possibility of theft, of criminal theft. Okay,
right. Listen, I'm not in favor of having another card. I don't want to be responsible for a card if for some reason I was going to wherever and I needed to have the card with me. I'm not happy with that. But
okay.
Obviously the district needs it not for us, but they need it for their own purchases more than the board needs it now. Or at any time. All right.
100% correct.
So,
and I'd just like to add that it took me like a year and a half to get, business cards. Now we're talking about a credit card. Like, you know what I mean? Like, this is we were talking about the expense of business cards, which is literally like the amount of the cost of the paper and the ink to make them.
Right.
And thank you for that, Heather, if you're listening. Thank you for that, getting me those business cards. I appreciate it. But I just think that it's unnecessary for a board member to have it. And, you know, I think that if we are going to have district cards, it should be written directly in the policy, which, if we're going to let the assistant superintendent of business have one, put that in the policy, and the amount that credit card is minimum, maximum, and, you know, what they're authorized to spend. That's all I'm saying. I don't have any problem with the school district, if they need a credit card, having a credit card.
Absolutely.
I don't have any problem with that. I just don't think board members should have it.
Yeah.
I think
I just focus item off of the action items.
Yeah, I think we should just table
committee meeting discuss the credit card.
Okay, so here's where it stands. Okay, this is the first reading. It sounds like you're going to set up a policy meeting before the February 2nd meeting, and you'll discuss it there. And I think we leave it at that.
But where did it come from, Matt? Where did this all come from? Like, who did the draft work on this policy? If the policy committee didn't do it,
It came from the business office.
it came from the business office. All right. Well, the correct protocol is for the people in the business office to attend the policy committee meeting and sit down with the policy committee members and hash out what should be written for the first reading, not just write it, put it on the agenda, and let's this is the first reading. That's the proper protocol.
We have in the past had policies come up for first reading that were time sensitive.
When they're state mandated, though, Matt, when they're state mandated, this isn't.
I think the intention here is to help ease a lot of the constraints that the business office and the district is feeling as a result of COVID and relationship with vendors. So that's the way it stands. I'm not advocating one way or the other. I'm just trying to explain why it's here.
I would make a motion to table it. To table this item until it's been seen by the policy committee. This shouldn't count as a first reading of the
business office is not responsible for making policy, period.
Technically, if the policy committee takes it and they edit it, it'll be back on for a first reading again.
That's, well, so then you should definitely table it.
So after the policy committee addresses all the concerns, it could be expedited and voted on at the next meeting if need be. So it doesn't
vote on it in the first reading.
One reading, two readings, we could expedite it if we needed to. But I do think, just to voice my opinion, the policy committee should really address this, because I think there's so many aspects to it that I think it really needs to be hashed out in the policy committee. But time sensitivity, we could expedite it for the next meeting.
Okay. So it sounds like Angus is making a motion to table.
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay, I want to try to honor that. Is there a second for that motion to table?
Second.
That Mr. Shapiro? Okay. Okay, so to table 2.14, all those in favor?
Can I just make a point of clarification, or what does this mean? It just means
that we're not
voting on it tonight. It's just going back to policy.
We're going to table it. It means that we're not taking a yay or nay vote on 2.14.
Okay.
And for the record, you can vote on it at the first reading still.
Yes, we can.
So it doesn't. There's no reason to keep this as not table it. Just let the policy committee work on it, and we'll vote on it the next time.
Okay, so the motion's on the table for the motion's on the table to table 2.14. So all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. All those against? Any abstentions? Okay, this motion is this item is tabled.
Great. Can I just say, Chris, let us know when you're available, because Don's schedule is as open as mine.
All right, moving on. 4.01 under information items, budget considerations.
I'm not sure who's taking the lead on this. Steve, taking it?
Yeah, thank you very much. I just wanted to let the board know that we are preparing, obviously, to move into next year's school budget for 21-22. I just want to talk a little bit about methodology and what we're doing and what our thoughts are, because obviously, as a school district, we want to base all of our decisions around data and research. So some of the things that we've been talking about with the principals and obviously Lee Weber as the acting superintendent and his methodology is we want to keep our budget increase as small as possible while still maintaining an excellent educational experience for all of our students. I think we can all agree to that, I hope. What are some of the variables within that methodology that we're looking at? Number one is we know our strategic planning is in process. We're working with a very good group with that. We're reviewing our mission and our vision statements. We're establishing goals and metrics. We're reviewing enrollment trends. We're assessing the needs of students to move forward. In other words, we're creating a 5-year plan, which I think was my marching orders when I was hired, as we really needed a 5-year budget plan. And that's what we're doing, and we're wrapping it around our strategic plan. So as we move forward, I'm providing them with data as well, and I'm developing that as well. So in moving along, I'll say, I asked that rhetorical question, what have we been doing? Well, we've been modifying our budget structure and our reporting models for better understanding of organization and effectiveness of everything that we do. That being said, we're now able to take a much more granular look by building, by program and enrollment, both numbers and the types of students that we deal with every day, and their needs. And by enhancing the use of metrics, we can better assess all these programs and using these new data tools that we have and our reporting functions. And we're working hard to create those 5-year budget models that each of us wants to move forward with this strategic plan, and for a new superintendent. What are some of the traditional items we're working with right now? As you know, we're looking at revenues are going to be big. Obviously, we're all wondering, as of even today with the governor, what's going to happen. Well, even the state of New York doesn't know yet. Obviously, we're waiting on the federal government. Will we receive $6 billion? Will it be $16 billion? Will the cuts be 20%? Will it be 5%? Where in that continuum, where will we be? So those are the things that we're looking at. We're also looking at our real property taxes, our pilot agreements. We're also looking at our tax cap. Our tax cap is approximately 1.1% this time, 1.2% is what we're looking at currently. Without our exclusions, we'll be working through our formulas with help. And again, we're also going to be taking a look at the tax cap, not just on a 1-year glance, but also a model has been created to take a look at that on a 5-year continuum. And all this stuff will roll together as we now make decisions going into the future with how will we affect ourselves in the out years. With not only real property taxes, but revenues, contracts, everything that we do. Obviously, on the expenditure side, we're looking at programs and service levels. As we all know that, we're looking at our enrollment, we're looking at the number of buildings that we have. We're dealing with that and having those discussions in our strategic planning model meetings. Just a few other things. Transportation, for example, is another large item that we're looking at. What will it mean to us, moving not just next year, but potentially in the next 3 to 5 years? Because our non-public schools are expanding greatly in their transportation needs. And that affects us where our needs are going down, their needs are actually increasing. So in the biggest effort, we're keeping students and staff in a comfortable, safe environment is what this budget is all about. That's the biggest piece of our methodology. And I always look at everything we do as the big question of, if you're a real good business, you always say why, how, and what. Well, the why. I think it's over here on the sign. We educate for personal excellence. That's why we're all here. We're here to provide every one of the Suffern students with the best educational experience that they can possibly have for the dollars that we have available to do so. So I will say with Maui pride, go Mountains. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions that anybody? I know it's very preliminary, very early in the process. But is there anything? Actually, let me ask this question first. We have some type of calendar for upcoming
budget events. And I think February 2nd, which is our meeting in 2 weeks, will be probably, a relatively informative introduction to kind of where we're going with our budget this year, right?
Yes, I just have some preliminary items that I've jotted down, obviously for you, you'll get a look at the full budget calendar at our next meeting. But February 2nd, for example, we will be providing you with a non-instructional side of our budget. March 2nd, we could potentially be looking at the instructional side of our budget, our state aid possibly, and the tax cap situation and those calculations. March 16th, we'll have a budget follow-up on both the instructional, non-instructional, the state aid and the tax cap, depending on what information we receive from both the state and federal governments. April 6th, we would do our revenue budget presentation. And again, anything that we need to modify from there on the expenditure side of the budget as well. April 23rd, or a date to be determined, a final budget presentation and adoption would be had, a possible BOCES vote and election, and then obviously on May 18th, the election and budget vote. Now, there's many items there. That is just a very high-level summary. There's many items there that fit in between there. Approximately 15 or so.
Yeah, and you gave me even more information than I was asking. I was just asking if, February 2nd.
Well, we're prepared. We just want you to know.
Is there anything then, I'll just ask, our board members here, is there anything specific that we want to look at or address, or are we pretty confident that that this process is gonna capture what we need to capture? I think I'm pretty confident considering, everything that's going on with the strategic planning. I know that's gonna play a role in our budget this spring. But is there anything anybody just wants to bring up at this time? This would be a good time to do it.
Steve, I would hope that this year we would not get on the day of the budget vote a breakdown of other in the budget, which was $5 million. We received that at something like 2 or 3 in the afternoon, and we had to vote on the budget that night. And we really didn't have a chance to go through and look at those items to see, in terms of the pandemic and everything, items that could be put off for a year or not done or so forth, or which were necessary. But it just seemed like all of a sudden, it's $5 million, and that's a lot of money. Remember, 1 million is 1%. So, I would hope that before we get to the budget vote, we would have a time frame to look and examine and see what items really have to be done this year, what items could be put off for this year. My comment in terms of, the new textbooks and so forth, things of that sort. But we really need a good discussion on it and not really have those numbers the day of the vote. That's it.
Yeah, that's all I have.
I think we got cut off again.
I think we lost audio.
Yeah.
Can you hear us?
Can you hear me? We can.
Now we can. Yeah, we weren't getting audio.
I guess you don't want to hear that.
No, we do.
We'll start again. Mr. Fraser.
I just want to say I'd like to thank the entire board for giving me this opportunity to serve. I'd also like to say to the community, the staff, the teachers, parents, students, that every decision I make while serving on the board, I will use you as my guiding principle. And I'm looking forward to serving on the board. So thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Any other board member comments?
I'd just like to take this time to welcome Daryl onto the board. Daryl, I think you're going to be a home run. I just look forward to working with you over the next couple of years. Thank you.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Shapiro?
Yes, I'd also like to welcome Daryl. And I know you know what you're getting yourself into, and it's great. Even though we already have your calendar already filled for the month of February and March, it'll be filled with good stuff. And everyone's been saying thank you to Heather, so I would feel bad if I didn't say thank you to Heather. So thank you, Heather, for always keeping us informed of all the small things that we might have missed and of all the big things that we might have forgotten. So really, thank you very, very much. And I know that you're working a lot with school leadership, and their thanking of you was great. And I'm glad that they took the time to do that. So thanks. Besides that, I got the COVID shot. I did not grow a left arm yet. So I want everyone to know that it's not anything worse than a flu shot so far. And I just hope that maybe after the summer, we'll actually all be in the meeting room together, and we'll be able to be live, really live.
Amen.
Yes, amen to that.
Okay, thank you.
Matt, I have a few comments.
Yes.
I want to offer my own personal condolences to the Lipman family. She'll be missed, and very nice sentiments that Ms. Weber put out earlier are echoed by myself and my family. I also want to welcome Daryl, and congratulations on being sworn in as a board member. It's a long time coming. You deserve to be here, and we're glad to have you, pal. Thank you. I also want to say congratulations to personally to our retirees. A lot of those folks on that list of retirees taught my sons at Cherry Lane and were really, really instrumental in all my children's upbringing, and they're great people, and they're going to be sorely missed. Also, just personally, Chris Mitchie and I coached. Chris was my high school football, and I ended up coaching with him at the middle school, and he gave us 32 years in this district, and he's a really, really good man, and he'll be missed. And I appreciate his years of service. But thank you to all the retirees, and that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I'll just say congratulations, Mr. Frazier. It was an honor to swear you in. Not usually my role, but welcome aboard, and I'm sure you will be a great addition to our team. Okay. 7.01 public participation. This is public participation on any district-related matters. Heather, I don't know if you have anything. Nope, nothing. All right. We will close that portion of the meeting. 8.01 acting superintendent's closing comments.
I'll be brief again. Congratulations, Daryl. Welcome aboard. Look forward to working with you. I just want to, one of our student reporters mentioned about winter sports starting, and I just wanted to mention how creative the winter sports that have been allowed to start have been in conducting their competitions and sharing them with the community. So for example, our swim team had a swim meet where we were in our pool and our opponent was in their pool, and they ran the events and they were both timed, and then the results were merged afterward. All of that was live streamed. So you're interested in watching any of our athletic competitions, well, unfortunately, we can't attend in person. All of our winter athletics, just like our fall ones were, are being live streamed. And if you go to on the district website, if you go to the athletics page and you go to the schedule and you click on the event, it'll have the link up there for you to watch. And the best time to go is like just before it's happening, because sometimes the links do change. So they've just been very creative. In addition, we hosted an indoor track meet outside last week. So it's indoor track this season, but we hosted it outside. We had the kids from the different schools staged in the different gyms because while it was an outdoor track meet, it was also 40 degrees out or high 30s. So when the kids weren't, while they did compete outside in the cold, when they weren't competing, they were in the gyms, separated, socially distanced, and different teams in different gyms. So they were, separated. So we've really, the teams that are competing have really gotten creative about how to do that. We are still hopeful for our high-risk sports that haven't been permissioned to start yet. We're waiting, final decisions from the state on those high-risk sports. On our fall 2 season scheduled to start in March, and then our spring sports later in the year. I think that's it.
All right, great. Okay, I think that about does it. At this time then, I would make a motion to adjourn this meeting. And all right, hang on a second. That was like real muffled. I don't know who that was. I'm usually very good with the voices.
Moved.
All right, Mr. McKenzie. Second?
Second.
Mr. Karen. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much. We will see you in 2 weeks. Have a safe couple of weeks.
Take care.
All right, Chris, what day works for you?